Welcome, everyone. I'm Jai Sugrum, and today I have the pleasure to sit down with Anthony Robert Grasso. Anthony, welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's great.
It's a real pleasure to have you here and focusing today on entrepreneurship. And you, as an artist, have sort of merged the two in something that people think the image of a struggling actor is what we're always envisioning. Before we get to how you created stability in your life, can we figure out or share? Can you share with us your entry and doorway into the art world?
Sure. When I was a kid, I was very outspoken, and and my teachers would always call me out, and I would have to go to the principal. And then when I got to sixth grade, my one teacher had put me into a drama class, and that seemed to suit me fine, but I was kind of embarrassed. And then fast forward, 15, I got into, a typical teen, dark period, and I was kind of not going to school, and I was doing all these things that, a 15-year-old shouldn't be doing. So it was dark. And my dad said, if you don't get your act together, we're taking you out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me to the dean, and he said he turned 16, we signed him out. And I said, wait a minute. And a drama teacher overheard that, and she came over to me. And I really believe there's a higher message. And I didn't know why she was so kind to me. And she said, come to my class and I'll pass you if you just show up. And I said, sure, what is it? And she said, it's an English major, but it's drama. So I go and I get there, and I'm kind of thinking this is a little wonky, but okay. And then she said, here, I want you to read this. And she gives me a monologue, and I wait about a couple of days to learn it, and then I bring it back. And the room kind of did a weird transformation after I finished, and it was like an out-of-body experience. And it's weird, I get a little emotional about it, because she looked at me and she took her glasses off and she said, did you ever think of doing this professionally?
And you're 16.
I was just turning 16.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, yes, but I was still cool. And I was like, I don't know. And I was a Brooklyn kid, so it was just not conducive to the life we led there. It was a little bit more blue collar and whatnot. So I was an artist always as a kid. I was always acknowledged for my artwork, and I was an art major. So I fell into the area that I was in was a kind of black and white, and they were seeing black and white, and I was seeing very vivid colors, and she saw that.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave me this green light and changed me. And I went back to school, and I graduated on time with my student. That was a big deal. And I won this really cool award from one high school in every region. It's called the Alexander Art Award. You had to go to the Metropolitan Museum, so it was a big deal. My parents were so proud. And anyway, fast forward, and then I moved into college, and I went to School of Visual Arts.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like the hand of God there. We would say that's karma, these pivotal moments where something comes in, and we could be on one destructive path, but you were guided
Correct.
into another way.
A lot of my friends didn't make it. A lot of them really went back either to jail or they didn't get past 20.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of at a crossroad. And I was very fortunate. My mom, and I have a very cool and a wonderful family environment, so that helped. And I have a strong sense of family because of that.
Did the theater help you to work out some of those tendencies?
Yes.
And to
Yes.
process them so you could evolve different, perhaps higher qualities within you?
Yeah, when I moved out of Brooklyn into New York, then things opened up differently. I was seeing other ways of lives and ethnicities, and everything went, and it was like this bevy. And as a kid, I remember taking the subway into the city, and I would see the Twin Towers at the time, and it looked like Emerald City. So it's like the land of anything can happen. So once that happened, then that changed everything.
And when you made the commitment to be an artist, what was that like on the financial side? I know there's always ups and downs. Can you talk about some of those dark times where it's tough to make ends meet and you don't know how your next audition's going to go? How do you temper that when you're young and your parents might say, hey, maybe you should do something else? What were your side jobs?
I worked actually once in LA. I was there for a year at the Academy Awards. And I was there as a waiter, and I almost left. I seriously almost left. I said, this is so crazy. it's a sea of actors, you know, waiting tables, and I was terrible at it. I was absolutely terrible at it. I remember there was everybody from Meryl Streep to Sidney Pollack to all these people around me, and I couldn't focus, and I was dropping things. I just wanted to hang out with them and talk to them. So that I knew wasn't going to work. The cater waiter thing was not for me, and I left that as well. And then I went to study abroad, and that was in 1998. And when I came back, the job I had as a waiter, and it was actually the only job that actually was working. It was kind of easy in terms of it wasn't high end, you know, dining. It was a Mexican fun restaurant, and I made really good money there. So I went right back and asked for my job, and she said no. She said, "Listen, you're too talented. Go out there and do something." So I said, "Okay, I gotta pay my rent." So I took an ad out back when you could do that in Backstage, and I said, "Let me see if I can teach." Because when I was in
How
London,
many years of acting experience did you have before you decided that you could teach?
I was about 15 years in.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about 15 years in, and when I was in this program, I was studying Shakespeare, and that was like a new thing for me because I thought I have to learn the classics. So I went and I did the classics, and I liked it, and I was getting it, and I was excited, and all these kids, you know, all these other students were like, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" So this one girl, in the middle of a coaching session, goes, "You should teach," and I went, "Well, yeah, you know, I guess, you know." And then when this, you know, employer said to me, "Go get another job, because you should," I took the ad out, and before I knew it, I had like 15, 20 students, and that's how it started.
It's interesting. Sometimes when we move from one thing that we're steady at to another place, it's like your foot's on one rock, and it might be slippery as you take that next step, and it's not, the gap in between is not certain. How do you transition to where it becomes, there's a certain trust, I think, in yourself, or perhaps having success in a previous thing, you're like, oh, I'm not good at this right now, but I'll figure it out. How'd you find that space to become a stable teacher, the one who created a great school, and you have many students now?
You know, I think being like a visual artist, you know, and I was studying people and faces, what acting is studying behavior, right? And then what I think teachers that I do is that I zoom in on you and what is special about you and how to be authentic, and how do you bring that to your performance rather than trying to act out a role. And apparently, like my wife's in my class, and she's also my partner, and other students have said, you know, you have this keen knack to get in there and pull that out of me rather than just trying to make me do something that you do with everybody else. So that, I guess, was something that, you know, I didn't know until I tapped into it, and then I got hired to be a TV and film teacher, and that was new. And then I started to really gather, it was audition technique that I was really strong at, and I said, there's a niche here. So everything kind of led to the next bit, you know, and then I got jobs in other schools.
What role does discipline play in your success as an artist and an entrepreneur? Like, how do you find your work ethic, and who inspired that work ethic in you?
You know, it's funny, I work a lot of hours. I do shoots in the days because I do headshots, and then I'll go and teach in the evening. I only get home to about 11. So someone says, God, how do you manage it all? Then you have auditions some days in between or before, and I laugh and I go, well, look at Oprah, Steven Spielberg, and J-Lo. I'm like, those guys have a lot going on. So if they can do it, I can do it, you know. So that's inspiring to me when I read people who are multitasking and have their hands in a couple of things. That makes me feel like I can do this. It's tangible.
And you think a young artist coming up can learn to trust themselves at a certain point? Like, what would you recommend in terms of healthy routines, self-care, protecting yourself from distractions? There's so many more distractions for a young person today.
Self-care is key, and respect. You know, I find so many people, when I was in LA, and it's not for all the actors in LA, obviously, but when I was there, I noticed there was a price that someone could just be bought. And I didn't like that feeling, you know, and I never would. So in my classroom, I say, look, this is a safe environment. There's no judgment. And you have to really embrace who you are, no matter if you're tall, thin, skinny, heavy, short, doesn't matter. You know, it's if you embrace that, then I think and respect that, people will see it. That's my feelings about that, and I try to encourage that to all my students and even myself. You know, I have to remember I'm Italian American. You know, and people when they really think that I'm an Italian, I go, look, I'm more American than Italian, and I like to call myself an actor who happens to be Italian. I don't necessarily have to be an Italian actor. Years ago, I dated a girl from Italy, and she said, "You're not Italian." so I go with that.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious about how you manage risk with uncertainty, and you've done many transitions. You said that you almost stumbled into your photography career and then turned that
Right.
into a business.
well, you know, it's funny. My daughter was born 16 years ago, and right around that time, digital just kicked in. So we had this camera, and I was playing around. I was taking a lot of pictures of her. She has millions of pictures of her. And somebody said, "You know, you're really good." And I thought, And I had this business, Breakthrough Studios, that I opened because we got married. And I said, "We're having a kid. I got to do something." So I opened up my own acting studio, and then I said, while I'm not working in the day, waiting for my classes to come at night, maybe I can try doing some photography. And I had a built-in audience, so I just started a portfolio.
But you
and
had
that's
to
how it
add
started.
skills there, right? I mean, you have
Well,
there's a
yes.
technical side
Yeah.
to it.
Well, that's where the School of Visual Arts. Remember I said how
Right.
earlier we were talking, and I said, who knew that was going to help? My dad told me when I wanted to be an actor at 20, I was in my second year. He said, "You better finish." And because I finished, I took a photography class, and I did fine artwork, so I understood composition, and I have an eye for that.
And that's from the portrait painting, I guess, has...
So again, I didn't know that was going to play a part. And I remember years ago, my first acting class, the lady who took me in, she even scholarshiped me at some point, and she said to me, "Don't ever discard your background of being an artist, because you're going to use it one day." And so this is what I tell my students. I say, look, if you don't like waiting tables, really start thinking about what you're good at. If you're a people person, if you're a salesman, if you can talk to people. I have one guy who's doing great in real estate, and he used to work in retail. And I was like, maybe you want to be into real estate. There's more money in it. Be great with people. He has this ease about him. If you're a good bartender, why not? So that's okay too. But if you're not happy, I said, just really iron out what you think you are good at. And I recently did a workshop with a company, and it was all about sustaining in the business. And this is I'm going on 34 years. And it's crazy. Like some days I go, how did that happen? You know, I don't know how I did that. But I think because I have a strong work ethic, I had the skills, and then the teaching sort of is the eye, because it's more like a director's eye. And it all just kind of came together. And then, of course, I work as an actor here and there, in between. So I think around 35, it all kind of made sense to me. Like I would like a family. I would like to be married. I would like to have a career. Why not?
Did the family life, was that catalytic or put some pressure on you to step into the entrepreneur side for stability, to temper these acting gigs that come and go?
Yeah, I mean, when I met my wife,
yeah,
when I met my wife, she laughed because I said, "Look, you know, I'm not the marrying kind, and don't get excited." And she said, "Don't flatter yourself." and then we got pregnant right away within the first year. We were 37, so we were kind of like at a point where we were like, "Well, I guess this is going to happen." And I panicked, and we were living in a small junior one-bedroom, and I didn't sleep nights, and I was going through it in my head, and I was like, "Oh my God, I got to do something." So that started the business off, to do the acting more, you know, teaching more full time, and then the photography came when she was born. So yeah, I mean, it definitely contributed to the need. I have to bring food. I think earlier somebody had said, you know, if I don't make money, I don't eat. So so I was making the money, so we can both make money to eat. So that definitely put a pressure. I used to laugh. She would catch me in the corner singing to myself because I was kind of losing it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna be a dad. But you know, I think my dad said, he goes, have a kid and you'll see a loaf of bread shows up.
Right.
You know, it's like you just automatically
You adapt
yeah.
to the situation.
Yeah.
It can bring out the best in
It
you.
really can. I
Yeah.
mean, and it definitely helped as an artist, as an actor.
Putting yourself in the shoes of, let's say, a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old with a dream that maybe is thinking of conservatory or training at some place like your school, how would you guide them to pursue their art with discipline, with honesty, and into a field that is kind of unstable and changing right now?
Well,
You know,
I think
with
that's
these
a great.
iPhones, everyone is you're able to do things with media. The prices
Yeah.
of cameras have come down. There's a lot of do it your own way, make your own small film.
Yeah.
It's a very different environment. How would you guide someone?
You know, this is what I tell a lot of the young guys, you know, out there, young gals and young guys, is that you must look at who's working, who has worked, study the classics, go back. I have mentors like from Meryl Streep and on to Daniel Day-Lewis to Pacino and these guys. I mean, I know lines and I've seen films again and again. Back in the day, we had to, rent films.
Yeah.
You know, now you can stream them, and sadly, I don't think enough kids are doing that. So I tell them, so I have a list. I have a whole worksheet that I give them. Films they should know, screenwriters they should know, playwrights they should know, TV shows that, from the 60s, 70s that they should know, actors from the 50s and up. They don't go back past the 80s, a lot of the youngins, and I don't blame them because, in me, for us, it's more, the 80s wasn't that long ago, and them, it seems like the 60s to them when we were kids. So
Yeah.
it's weird. I think for them, they need to really learn who came before them and study and study with good people, and to not just put away all their integrity and their skills. If you have a skill, nurture that. Nurture that. A dear friend of mine is doing a business for actors. She's helping actors become a business person because they don't teach you that in acting school. They don't teach you that. They don't say, okay, this is a business, and then there's the art. It's show business. So
Right.
actors generally go in and they think it's enough. It's not. You have to have a business plan.
We here at Motivations believe in the role of mentors, and I'm curious with you, how would someone establish a relationship with a mentor, and who were your key mentors artistically, and also maybe as an entrepreneur, you hit obstacles. Well, the role of a mentor when you have to market your new business
Right.
or get something off the ground. How does someone cultivate a relationship with a mentor, a young person?
It's for me. I remember when I was very young, whatever class I was in, I would get up and I would stand right behind my teacher and watch him give any kind of adjustment. And one of them said, "You're like a sponge." So when I get a young student doing that to me, it automatically, I see that they have this desire and
Drive,
and
right.
they actually made me their mentor without me even knowing.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is, if somebody is giving it to you, whatever it is that you need, then really take it and go out of your way and don't think it's going to come to you. I think we're a little bit in an entitlement period.
That's what I'm getting at. I
Yeah.
feel that from young people, like I think it's sort of like not putting your head on a chopping block, but
Right.
when there's a master, obviously someone with a long line of experience, if there's a humble submission to the craft, then their knowledge can stream down to you. And I don't see enough of that in young people today.
No.
When they take an apprenticeship, they want their title, they want their job duties, and it's like,
Yeah.
I remember busting my hump to learn the things I had to
Yeah.
do and to help out a master and not be their slave, but to
Right.
just make their life easier. And in exchange, you get knowledge.
Ask questions,
Right.
pay attention, listen. When I'm on set, I'm very quiet. I watch like a hawk. And only a couple of years ago, I just started directing film. And at first, I thought I couldn't do it, just because I thought that's something that I didn't plan on. I only directed in theater, but it's not that different. The only difference is you need to have a crew that you need to count on, and that's what I've learned watching them. So I made sure I have a good DP. I make sure I have a good sound person. I make sure I have a good producer. I have a good first AD. It's like, okay, these are the first 5 things you need. And again, if I didn't ask, if I didn't just watch, I wouldn't have learned that.
Yeah.
And now I have like 6 things that I just finished up. So, and it gets a little easier as you do it.
Who was the key mentor for you that sort of opened your imagination up and showed you what was possible?
As far as business, right?
Yeah, and your entrepreneurial side of your business.
I used to go to this network facility that I would meet agents and casting directors, and I would sit there and I'd be calculating, like, actors need this. And how can I parlay what I do into that? So when I opened up my business, I modeled it after that. And there wasn't a lot of them at the time. Now they're pretty much popular. It's like 5, 6 of them in New York. But at the time, I thought, I can do something like that. You know, I love people. I like dealing with actors. I like helping actors. That's my thing. You know, I'm like Papa. You know, I hold them up. But a lot of my students now are older. They're like 30 to 78. I have like a wide range of more mature students, and a group of like 20 to 30. But I think going into that kind of facility was really about how do I make that work? What are the components that I need? And I called up a friend, and he was a business guy, and we went into business together.
Okay.
So that's how that started. I didn't like the network side of it. After a while, it became sort of, I didn't feel it was authentic.
Okay.
Because not everybody's going to walk in leaving with a gift, and I had no control over that. So I realized that moving forward in that business around 8 years in, I said, that's not what turns me on. What turns me on is when I'm working with them and there's something that a bulb goes off and I see them get it, and they can leave. You know, and then if they ever not study with me anymore, that's fine. I'm glad to give them that. But sometimes when you go to these network things and you meet a casting director, you think they're going to hire you immediately, and it takes time to build a relationship.
Yeah.
You need to set the ground, and then you have to stay in touch, and you have to keep working. I mean, the good thing about social media, it's good and bad. The bad thing about social media is that I think people are on it for what they're eating. And that can be overwhelming.
What do you mean, too much
just like everything about their life, you know.
Yeah, right.
But I think the good thing about social media is that it's a free way to tell people what you're doing.
Right.
So my outreach when I was in my 30s doing TV shows, I couldn't tell a friend from back when I was 18. Now they're all on my stuff, so they can know they're all in it. Yeah. So it's weird. They got really small. So that part I think is great. But again, going back to your question, I think pay attention to what a model works, if it's a model that you're looking at, and then ask questions. How do I get there? One of the best things I learned in college, when I was going to be an art director, they took us to Gray Advertisement and they let us shadow an art director and ask questions and model what he did. And that's when I knew I didn't want to be an art director. So that was a good thing, you know? It was like, nope, that's not it for me. It's not sinking in. So that's pretty much how I would suggest them do it.
Yeah, we here at Motivations believe in exploring spiritual practices, and I myself, when I see a great piece of art or an actor truly being honest, it can make me emotional, and to me, that's where I tap into the spiritual side of myself, or it helps me to. Do you have spiritual practices, or were you raised with a religion or something that takes you beyond just the materialism of the world? And we're in a very materialistic culture right now, and how do you step beyond that to feed your spirit creatively?
Well, growing up, definitely I had a strong foundation. My mom was a churchgoer, and I was probably the only brother that would go, because I'm a family of 4 siblings, and I was probably the only one that actually went, that I didn't go, and then I went back. And then when I got married, we found a church that was not Catholicism, it was Episcopalian. So we had to restructure, and I wanted that kind of support, and it was just all happenstance how it worked out, that it was an actor's church that I didn't know about. It was almost like it called me. It was weird. So I believe in a higher thing. And for me, now I'm more spiritual, but I am still kind of religious, but I'm more spiritual. I think about positivity an energy. I'm all about vibrations, and I think if you have a good
Do you
vibration.
pray or do you meditate?
I meditate.
Okay.
I do pray. I do pray. I meditate, but it's and I don't do it because I want something. It's more like I just want to make sure that I'm focused and I'm clear, because I think if you have clarity, you can see, and so I think it is important. And meditation is something new that I started. I studied martial arts, and we would meditate there, and
Right.
and that was when it hit me that, wow, I used to walk out of there feeling very grounded and just heavy in my legs. I wasn't just saying, where am I going? It was kind of like I had a path.
Right.
And I told this once to a student. I was going to a fitting for a show that I had booked, and as I was walking, I believed that I've done this before. It was like a little
karmic thread
and
there.
I said, I'm in this right groove. This is the right path that I should be on, and I tell people, pay attention to that. So again, it's the vibration, and it's the I don't pray to book something. I meditate me doing it, or as we were saying earlier,
Visualization.
yeah, I visualize it. And this is kind of new. And some people go, oh, this manifestation word. And I go, I think it's underrated. I think there's something to it. you
Yeah.
know.
The world comes from our thoughts.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
you have to
thoughts are
tend
strong.
to your thoughts.
Well, a friend of mine taught me this one. I did a book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
it,
I've read
by
it.
Julie Cameron.
Yeah.
And she was married to Scorsese. And she said she was I think it's in the forward of the book, she said if she was at this night where they were all hanging out having dinner and drinking wine and having a great time. And all of them were congruent with their ideas of this is what I like to do. I want to do a movie about an alien, and not one of them, she said, shot it down. They said, you should do that. And then the other one talked about another film, and they all got to do Star Wars and E.T. and this is way before that.
Everything manifests.
So she talks in great length about that. That was the first time I actually tapped into like using music to open up the heart chakras and to really kind of like tap in quickly. And as an actor, you need to know how to access these things. So that helped. But what I loved about it, she said, go into a room, and if everyone is negative and talking about smack and people and just angry, walk away and see what other circle that you find. And I did that at this one party, and funny enough, this girl and I chatted, and I said, I got this book, The Artist's Way. She goes, I got it too. And I said, it's sitting on my shelf. She goes, let's do it together. And that's how we did it. And then
You
I
did
went
the exercises.
Yeah. And all we did was hold each other accountable. Didn't even know the girl.
Yeah.
It was like check in.
In the world of starting a business and like looking for locations and deciding how to market, things don't always go, you can have a plan, but there's setbacks. What I'm
Right.
curious about is your strategy for setbacks.
That's a good
We're
question.
never going to be trajectory straight up. Humans
Right.
go 2 steps forward, 1 back, 2 steps forward, 1
Right.
back. Can you talk about how you handle that 1 step back? So some young people listening to this today, when they get knocked down, they can get back up and get on the horse again.
Someone just recently said, how do you direct? And this is what I think it applies to life. I said, you have to be ready for anything to change on the spot. And if you allow yourself that freedom, I don't panic, and I just make adjustments. So in this case, what I do right now is the busiest time of year because everybody has goals. It's January. Come summer, it drops down a bit. So you kind of have to pre-plan for that. As far as space, I've been in so many different spaces over the years. The last space that I was at a school that I was teaching. It was a beautiful facility, and then they decided that they weren't going to have outsiders in the evenings anymore, so I then went to a regular rental studio, and that was kind of loud and not working as well, and it was hurting my brand. And then someone that I knew said someone's looking for a full-time teacher to teach out of their space. So I went over, and they were just building it, and I thought, this is going to work. Again, didn't push it.
Right.
I kind of just went with my gut on that. And again, I listened carefully to my gut.
Coming back to listening.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd time you've
Yeah.
mentioned it. It's that
Well, you have to listen to
receptive
that,
nature,
yeah. And sometimes it takes something brutal. Like, for example, something happened at the space I was renting at, and I overlooked a couple of incidents, and this one was my equipment was compromised, was damaged, and it was in their closet, in their possession. And I said, "What are we going to do about this?" And the guy was like, "Well, I don't have to tell you."
Mm-hmm.
And he just couldn't care, like I was invisible. And the minute I got that, I went, "Okay, we're done."
Right.
And that was it. And then and I didn't plan anything. All of a sudden, I got a call
Mm-hmm.
after I said, "I'm done," saying, "Hey, you want to look at a space?" And then I just, again, listened to that, and I went and ran over to it, and I went, "Yep, this will work."
It keeps, the way you're saying listening, and someone hearing this might feel like, oh, wow, they're so unscientific. It's almost like you're methodical about this energy we call intuition. It's like you've got that figured out. And someone that's a straight scientist might be like, well, what are the elements, the chemical elements of that experience? But I feel that you're tapped into your intuition.
I think so. I think
how does
as
one
I'm getting
cultivate
older,
that relationship?
Grow older. I tell people,
You learn to trust, right?
The two things that you get out of aging is you live longer and you don't care as much. You care less. Meaning small things don't bother me.
Right.
I don't care if people get me or not.
Okay.
There's the difference. But
Because you get you.
right.
Yeah.
And as I say, if that person's not paying my rent or my mortgage, so I'm not going to take that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've had your hands in a few things, and as we wrap up here, I'm curious, and we here at Motivations want to know, what is the challenge for you creatively or in your business? Like, where do you feel you can step up in an area of your life?
Well, in the last few years, I went from teaching 2 classes to 3 classes to 4 classes. Now I'm up to 6, and I kind of tapped out as far as how much I can do in person. So the next, I guess, phase is that I want to start doing things more online, possibly produce and shoot my class.
Okay.
And then have it as like
So
a master class.
digitizing your learning.
And then this way I can do a bigger outreach.
Okay.
I can hit Chicago, and I can hit Los Angeles, and I can hit San Francisco and Atlanta. So, if you're not in New York, you can't study with me. So and then there's a wait list. So there's so much you can do. I can't teach anymore at this point. It's like I have up to almost 90 students.
Yeah.
And by Friday, my last class, my last scene, I went, wow. Like and it's the same thing every week. So, and then I'm juggling my lines. I'm doing a film in 3 weeks.
Right.
And I'm still inserting, and then I'm a family member.
It's a lot of energy management.
Yeah. There's a big pie
Right.
that I try to maintain, business, career, family, and sometimes my family gets compromised, and my wife and I tend to argue about this. And it's not easy. It's not easy, and sometimes you're alone in how you feel about it. So I tell people, if you are to have plans to have a relationship, just be open that there are times when you can have lots of time, and then other times you won't. It's going to be tight.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of be aware of it. Sometimes it takes a good partner to tell, hey, how about me? So that's pretty much how I would go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition,
Trust
be
your
disciplined, be receptive. Thank you, Anthony, for
my
sitting
pleasure.
down with us and giving such informative tools and
Thank
life
you.
strategies.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on to Motivations.
No, it's great. I like you guys. Thank you so much.
For you at home that would like more information on Anthony Robert Grasso, please go to motivationstv.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more exciting guests from our show. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in and watching our show.
Tune in on our next episode.
And if you missed any of our previous episodes, be sure to watch them on our YouTube channel.
Be sure to follow us on all of our social media pages and contact us today. We'd love to hear from you.
Like us on Facebook and tell us your thoughts on our show by giving us a review.
Follow us on Instagram and leave a comment about today's show.
Tweet us what topics you'd like to discuss in the future on Twitter.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hit that little bell icon so you can get instant notifications, so when our exclusive content releases, you're the first to hear about it.
We cannot wait to see you there.